Do you want a divorce? After Professor David broke up with his first love, he married me out of spite. In the 3 years since our wedding, he's been thoughtful in every possible way. He never forgets an anniversary, puts effort into surprises, cooks warm meals with his own hands, and picks me up from work in the glow of the evening sun. But all of that 3 years' worth of devotion was shattered by one sentence. "Emily, I'm back." I had never seen David look at someone like that. The way his expression softened, I understood everything in a single moment. If I wasn't his one, and only I didn't want any of it, I didn't go home after work. The apartment was unusually quiet and dark. I knew David's teaching schedule by heart. He didn't have any classes that evening. I turned on the lights. The little blackboard next to the door was empty. Everything looked exactly the same as when I left that morning. My phone still showed yesterday's message from David. He'd reminded me to wear something warmer because of the cold. Did something happen? David and I had agreed we'd always check in with each other if anything came up. I called him 3 times in a row, no answer. That had never happened before. An unexplainable panic crept over me. I started to worry something had happened to him. I called one of his colleagues who told me David had left right after his afternoon class. After I hung up, I just stood there, not knowing what to do. Then, without meaning to, I tapped into my social feed and saw a new post from Jason, one of David's friends. The caption read, "A long overdue reunion." The photo showed 3 people. David was standing very close to a woman holding a wine glass and smiling from the expression in his eyes. It was clear he was in a great mood. One of David's COS worker messaged me asking if something had happened at Everest. I took a moment to study myself, then lied and told them everything was fine. David called me shortly after, but instead of answering, I went to Jason's post and left a comment, "Please tell David to text me back." When I refreshed the page, the post had already disappeared. David called again quickly, saying his phone had been on silent and he forgot to turn the volume back up. I didn't want to hear the rest. I cut him off. "Do we need to get a divorce?" There was silence on the other end. I hung up. I knew the woman in that photo. Her name was Emily. From what I'd heard, she was David's first love. They dated for 4 years in college, and their relationship had been serious. They had planned to get married right after graduation, but Emily insisted on studying abroad for her career, and that was what ended them. After that, David agreed to blind dates and eventually married me on a whim. Out of frustration, David had told me everything about his past with her. He had been open and honest, which was one of the reasons I decided to marry him. But after seeing that photo, I realized that the calm, indifferent way he used to talk about Emily might have just been an act. When we first got married, there were rumors everywhere. Everyone knew David had been in a serious relationship. Everyone knew the person he truly wanted to marry was Emily. Behind my back, they whispered, "So what if he married Rachel? When Emily comes back, Rachel will have to step aside." But even though our marriage began as the result of a blind date, David always gave me dignity. Our wedding was grand with countless guests in front of everyone. He declared that I, Rachel, was his one and only wife. Life after marriage was simple, but it was happy. He would prepare my lunch boxes in advance because I once told him the food near my studio wasn't great. When the weather suddenly dropped, he would cancel meetings just to bring me a coat. Throughout our marriage, I was always watching him, wondering if he was the kind of man I could raise a child with. For 3 years he proved himself. I believed he had moved on from Emily. I even started to imagine what it would be like to have a child with him, but then I saw that photo, David smiling with such warmth in his eyes, and it stung. David came home soon after. It was October and he was sweating from running. Rachel listened to me. He said he explained that after class he forgot to turn off silent mode on his phone, and Jason hadn't told him Emily would be at the gathering. Holding my hands, he said I was wrong, but let's not throw around the word divorce so easily, okay? We had been married for 3 years. "I just need you to trust me," David said. And he was right. We'd been married for 3 years. I couldn't just condemn him over one photo. Life returned to how it used to be, as if Emily had never reappeared. David would order my favorite flowers ahead of time, so they'd be delivered to the apartment. After dinner, he'd hold me on the sofa and talk with me about interesting things that happened during his lectures. I had seen how focused and attentive he could be with me, which only made it easier for me to notice when his mind began to drift. When he to messages, he'd subtly tilt his phone's screen away from my view. Even though I was right there in his arms, I could feel a distance between us that I just couldn't cross. Then suddenly he tucked his phone away and said, "We're out of fruit. I'll go buy some." He left so quickly I didn't even have time to tell him the fridge was already full of fruit. A bit of hunger crept in, and with it hesitation. Maybe I could keep waiting, just see how things unfold. I checked the time, 10:32 p.m. How long would David be gone? Half an hour, 2 hours? Or would he not come back until morning? And if he stayed out all night, what would be his excuse? To my surprise, David returned even faster than I expected, carrying a bag full of bulk apples, the kind he always said didn't taste good. There's a tiny fruit shop nearby that sells those apples. They're unpopular with students, but David always complained about them. He once told me he'd rather go without fruit than eat those. He looked flawless, like he had simply gone out for fruit and nothing more. But I didn't miss the stiff pause in his back when he opened the fridge and saw it packed with fruit. Nor did I miss how deliberately he stuffed the apples to the very back, trying to cover his tracks. Once he finished, David looked completely composed and casually said, "I'll be in the study prepping for tomorrow." That night, David didn't come back to our bedroom. I lay alone in bed, my mind spinning. If we were to divorce, how would we split our assets? What would we tell our parents? In the morning, there was no lunchbox on the table. He usually made one in advance on the blackboard by the door. He'd written emergency at school, had to leave early. I stared blankly at those words. We live in faculty housing provided by the university. It takes less 15 minutes on foot to reach the building where David teaches. It wasn't even 7 a.m. yet, his first class didn't start until 8. No meetings, no events. What kind of emergency could there possibly be? I didn't dwell on it. What if there really was something at the studio? The student assistant who worked part-time every week seemed hesitant as she looked at me. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Did something happen?" Her name was Anna. I had asked David to help me find a reliable student assistant, and she'd been helping me ever since, organizing documents and handling small tasks. She looked nervous, like she'd made a mistake and was bracing for a scolding. I adjusted my expression and tried to reassure her. "It's okay if you mess something up, just fix it or make up for it, and it'll be fine." But right as the words left my mouth, I couldn't help but think of David. If someone makes a mistake in marriage, can it still be fixed? "Rachel, have you checked the school for him today?" Anna asked carefully. I snapped back to attention. "No, I haven't. I came straight to the studio this morning. I didn't usually check it anyway. Only when I was really bored would I browse through all the ridiculous gossip and ruthless sarcasm from the newer students. I'd scroll through and marvel at the variety of human behavior. Nothing was truly unimaginable anymore." Anna hesitated. Maybe you should take a look." I mean, don't get too upset, though. The way she said it sent a wave of dread through me. What on the forum could possibly have anything to do with me? There was only one answer, David still unsure. Anna opened her phone and handed it to me. "Sis, getting too angry is bad for your health," she said softly. On the front page of the forum was a photo of David and Emily hugging beneath a banyan tree. Even though I'd mentally prepared myself the moment I saw it, my chest seized up. I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had sealed a plastic bag over my lungs, every breath painful, suffocating. That banyan tree was in a hidden corner of campus, a place few people went. David knew that must be why he felt so comfortable getting that close to Emily under that banyan tree, because he didn't expect anyone to be watching, let alone taking pictures and posting them on the campus forum. Anna looked at me anxiously. "Are you okay?" I nodded and kept reading. The post was anonymous. The title, though, was sensational and eye-catching. "Caught in the act, Professor David caught cheating live." The thread had blown up. There were hundreds of comments. Some doubted the post's authenticity. "Come on, people, wake up. A hug counts as cheating." Now seriously, which outdated moral code says hugging equals infidelity? Disperse, folks? I hugged my advisor when I won a prize last year. Big deal. Others were unforgiving. Just imagining his wife at home while he's downstairs hugging another woman makes me sick. Hugs between students and teachers are supposed to be formal. Who hugs like that, practically glued together, exactly with a hug that close? Who would believe there's nothing going on? FYI, cheating doesn't have to mean getting caught in bed. Emotional cheating counts too. And of course, there were those who were just there for the drama. Okay, but this photo, great vibes, props to whoever took it. Secretary Jiang, 3 minutes. I want a full dossier on that woman. Everyone please tag me for updates. I love when the tea's hot. The comments section was blowing up, but David didn't message me, didn't say a single word. Instead, someone unexpected showed up at the studio bookmark. "Hey, Jason said sorry about last time I had too much to drink. Didn't think before posting." I rarely saw Jason. He was David's friend and Emily's cousin. I remembered the first time we met. He didn't even try to hide his dislike for me. He never said anything outright rude. but at group gatherings he'd always toss in some passive-aggressive remark. Everyone knew who he was targeting, but he never said my name, so I couldn't confront him directly. The others would just laugh awkwardly, trying to smooth things over. The whole atmosphere was as uncomfortable as swallowing a fly. Eventually, David had enough and pulled him aside for a private chat. I never found out what they talked about, but when they returned, they were suddenly all buddy-buddy. After that, Jason treated me like I didn't exist. David never asked him to apologize, and the matter was dropped. We'd barely interacted since, so I had no idea why he was suddenly here. "You came just to apologize?" I asked. Jason nodded to make up for it. "Let me treat you to a meal." I remembered David had just messaged me saying he had a work dinner tonight, and that I shouldn't wait for him. Just that one line, like nothing had happened, like he hadn't seen the forum post. I couldn't help but feel suspicious. Jason brought me to a trendy restaurant with great reviews. After ordering, we sat across from each other in awkward silence. No conversation, no chemistry. I picked up my phone. "You don't mind if I check in with my husband, do you, Mr. Jason?" He waved it off casually. "Go ahead," I started a video call. Jason's expression shifted instantly. "You're video calling him," I nodded. He shot up and reached across the table, trying to grab my phone, but the call was already picked up by David. Then the screen went dark. Jason let out a long breath and leaned back, relieved. Meeting my gaze, he awkwardly explained I was just trying to say hi to David, didn't mean to make a scene. He gulped down some water and added lamely, "Hope I didn't scare you." I didn't respond. 2 new messages popped up on my phone. "Can't video chat right now. Busy with the dinner." "Rachel, is something wrong?" But David's work dinner was supposed to be at the end of the month. Did he forget or was he lying? A wave of helplessness washed over me. I looked at Jason, "Is David out with your cousin Jason?" Denied it immediately, "No, not at all." But the way he started fussing with the tableware, like he was too busy to meet. My eyes said everything. "What? Afraid I'd find out?" I raised my wine glass and clinked it lightly against Jason's. "Must have been exhausting," I said. "Going to all this trouble just to help your cousin date a married man." "You're a good brother," I said, as I downed the last of my grape juice in one gulp. Then I stood up and left Jason behind. He rushed out after me. "It's not what you think, they were just catching up," he said, afraid I'd misunderstand. I scoffed. "If that's the case, then maybe they shouldn't have been alone together to catch up." I deliberately emphasized the word alone. Jason kept following me. "Yes, you two are married, but they were together for 4 years too. It was just a friendly reunion. You don't need to overreact." "Oh sure," I laughed coldly. "If it was just a friendly reunion, why hide it? Why send you to keep me occupied?" "Okay, fine, I admit it," he muttered. "I shouldn't have agreed to help them when they asked if they just kept it hidden better. It would have all blown over. Now that it's out, I'm just trying to do some damage control, but I promise you that's really all it was, nothing more. I know it looks bad, and yeah, it was shady of me, but they're innocent, don't be so dirty-minded, okay? I'm sorry, can't you just act like you don't know anything?" I rolled my eyes so hard it hurt. "You know what you look like right now? Like a pimp standing outside a brothel trying to convince people it's just a clean, respectable business arrangement between a prostitute and a client. It's disgusting." Still reeling from the 1-2 punch of betrayal from David and now Jason, I left without pause and went straight to my cousin's law firm. "Cousin, I need a divorce agreement," I said. He blinked in confusion. "Why the sudden divorce?" I didn't answer him. Instead, I picked up the phone and called his wife. "Hey, I'm at the office. Can you send me and your husband the draft of your divorce agreement? He'll bring it home later." My cousin's wife ran a private clinic and knew what was going on between David and me. "Are you sure about the baby?" she asked gently. "I'm sure," I said. "Tell your husband to move fast. I still want to make it home in time for dinner." "Well," she said with a sigh, "when a wife gives orders the husband obeys." Even though my cousin didn't understand what was happening, he didn't dare argue. Once his wife got involved, he handed me the agreement, and I went home. David had made a full dinner spread. He acted like everything was perfectly normal, casually inviting me to come eat. I stood across the living room just watching him. I couldn't understand how he could pretend so easily like nothing had happened. Did he think that if he didn't say anything, I wouldn't know that? If I didn't bring it up, it didn't matter? I walked over and handed him the divorce papers. "Let's get divorced." David looked thrown. "Rachel, didn't you promise me you wouldn't talk about divorce so lightly again?" "This isn't lightly," I said. He didn't take the papers, so I set them down on the table. "Do you want to explain? Maybe start with how the moment your ex came back to the country. You rushed to meet her?" Or how you snuck out in the middle of the night to hug her under a banyan tree. How about the part where you said you had a work dinner tonight, but actually went on a date with your ex, and even sent your friend to distract me? David took a deep breath. How do you know all that? You told me to trust you, I said, and you hid it all because you were afraid I'd misunderstand, right? He looked serious, his tone sincere. Rachel, there's nothing between me and Emily anymore. I know I'm married. I haven't done anything inappropriate. Just because I met up with her doesn't mean you have to make such a big deal out of it. You're being petty, and honestly, the fact that you don't even trust me with something this basic, it's an insult to our marriage. I couldn't believe it. After all of that, instead of offering an explanation, he turned it back on me petty. I looked at the man I'd been married to for 3 years, really looked at him today. He felt like a stranger. If there's truly nothing between you and Emily, then why are you so scared I'd misunderstand? When you say inappropriate, do you mean sex? So as long as you don't sleep with her, nothing else counts as crossing the line? I narrowed my eyes, David. What makes you think I'd be okay with you bouncing back and forth between your marriage and another woman? He had no answer. His face tensed with frustration. Then, as if he couldn't reason with me, he suddenly stood up, angry. Think whatever you want, he snapped, but I'm not admitting to something I didn't do. He slammed the door behind him so hard it shook the walls, and suddenly a line I'd once read online popped into my head. If you didn't catch them in bed, it doesn't count as cheating. Men never admit to cheating. They want to keep the red flag flying at home while letting colorful flags wave freely outside. David could dream about having both, but I wasn't going to give him that chance. I hadn't planned on responding to the taunting text from an unknown number, but for the sake of a smooth divorce, going to see her didn't seem entirely unreasonable. Emily had picked a cafe near the university she and David had attended. It was the first time I'd seen her in person. She definitely had the kind of presence that could leave a mark on someone just sitting there. She attracted glances from several young guys. Come sit, she said with an easy familiarity, like we were longtime friends. Sorry for calling you out so suddenly, she added, as she ordered a coffee for me and looked me over from head to toe. I just wanted to see what kind of woman David married. She smiled, but her tone was icy. You look pretty ordinary. I had no interest in playing along with her condescending act, but for the sake of getting through this divorce, I smiled, nodded, and tilted my head slightly. Really then, why would David rather marry an ordinary woman than marry you? Was it really just because you studied abroad? It's not like David couldn't afford a plane ticket. That had always puzzled me. If two people truly loved each other, would they really end a relationship over 4 years of long distance? Emily lifted her coffee with poised fingers. You don't understand what we had, she said, regaining her composure quickly. This place, this cafe, was our favorite date spot. Our 4-year relationship was so deep, everyone knew about it. I'm sure you've heard the rumors, too. When you two got married, people were saying that David's heart still belonged to me. I hope that didn't ruin your wedding day. She sipped her coffee like royalty, perfectly elegant and smug. I seriously wondered if being abroad had made her brain soft. I wasn't interested in continuing the conversation. Instead, I pulled out a photo from my social feed. A zoomed-in shot of our marriage certificate. All of that, it's in the past. What I have with David now is present, legal and binding. I said, of course, you're welcome to keep seeing him as long as you're okay being the other woman. Emily clenched her jaw, the one who isn't loved as the mistress. She spat. That kind of statement could only come from a woman who's mastered the art of self-delusion. You know, I said I asked David if he wanted a divorce the day you came back. He said no, he begged me to stay. Why do you think that is? I didn't wait for a reply as her face tightened with humiliation. I turned and walked away, leaving behind a mocking laugh. The sound of shattering porcelain and startled gasps from the waitstaff followed me out. Later I got a message from Anna. The post on the forum had gone viral. David, the university administration, had noticed David had been called into the office that afternoon and all his classes canceled. Anna messaged me excitedly. Do you want me to make you a presentation? Yes, the infamous PPT revenge. I knew exactly what she meant. I smiled and declined. I wanted a divorce, sure, but I never wanted to ruin David's career. Still, the university put him on mandatory leave, no pay, no duties until the whole scandal died down. I understood their decision in this information. Age, a little negligence could get a school's name, dragged through gossip and scandal. That was the last thing they wanted. David came to my studio with a lunchbox in hand. Rachel, could you help me clarify things publicly, he asked. That wouldn't be clarification, I said. That would be lying in front of everyone you to cause this mess. And now you want the person you hurt to cover for you? He flinched, then frowned. You're still hung up on all that? Don't be so stubborn, Rachel. This is important to me. I nodded calmly. I'll clear it up on one condition. Sign the divorce papers? David seemed to deflate right in front of me, like the air had been knocked out of him. You're really still thinking about divorce even now? The disappointment in his eyes was almost heartbreaking. Believe it or not, Rachel, I love you, I really do. Divorce is not an option. And with that, he left the lunchbox, remained on the table. I opened it. The scallion ginger chicken smelled exactly like the one from the little shop behind the school, so David had gone out of his way to bring it over himself. Thing was, that shop offered delivery, just a few extra bucks, and they'd bring it right to the studio. Later, David posted several photos on the school forum, him, Jason, and Emily group pictures to prove they were just catching up. He confirmed that the girl in the hugging photo was indeed Emily, and explained that it had been an impulsive moment between college friends reunited after 4 years. Some people believed him, some didn't, but more and more people had started to lose interest, their focus shifting elsewhere. The post's popularity slowly faded. Still, the university placed David on unpaid leave, asking him to resolve his personal matters. If something like this happened again, they said, at best, he'd be disqualified from awards and promotions, at worst he'd be fired. David didn't seem to take it seriously. Maybe the forum incident had given him some misplaced confidence. For several days in a row, he openly spent time with Emily and Jason, as if Jason's presence somehow magically framed everything between him and Emily as nothing more than friendship. David and Emily went to the beach, smiling at each other as the sun rose. He took her hiking on Mount Chan Foam, walking hand in hand, and stopping occasionally to wipe the sweat off her forehead with his sleeve. They camped by a creek, grilled meat by the tent, and Emily feed him skewers. All of these moments came from Jason's social media. He was the perfect little errand boy, sticking by David and Emily like a glowing third wheel, faithfully posting their adventures for me to see. I saved every single one of them. When the time came, they would all be evidence to support my divorce. A few more days passed. David finally returned to work. I timed it just right and sent him all the videos during his lecture slot. Later, Anna messaged me, chatting casually. Professor David saw something on his phone and looked pissed. I smiled. Since that day, David had been avoiding me completely, so I figured if I can't find him, I'll let him come find me. I didn't have to wait long. As soon as his class ended, David rushed into the studio. The moment he walked through the door, he exploded. How did you get those videos? How could you be so underhanded? Are you really willing to do anything just to get a divorce? I looked at him, so angry, so shaken, and I couldn't figure out what exactly he was mad about. Was it that I was using the videos to push for divorce, or was he worried they'd his career? I calmly opened the videos on my phone. They were screen recordings I'd taken from Jason's social feed. I had even helpfully clicked on each post in the recording, so everything was clearly shown. David slumped down, defeated. He had clearly never seen Jason's posts, but now he understood everything. He looked like he wanted to salvage some dignity. Then why did you say those things to Emily? He demanded. Do you know how hurt she was? She cried so much after that from David's anger. I could tell Emily had definitely gone crying to him. I gave a short laugh. And what does her being upset have to do with me? Tell me what part of what I said wasn't true. David looked like he wanted to argue, but not a single word came out. His head hung low, his voice softened. Do you really have to go through with the divorce? Of course, I said calmly. You keep insisting there's nothing going on, but you and I both know better, don't we? David stayed silent for a long time. I caught a glimpse of a tear slipping down his face before he quickly looked away. In the end, he signed the divorce papers. As he turned to leave, he said, Rachel, I love you. It made my stomach churn. If this were posted online, no doubt some overly understanding netizen would come rushing in with their smug commentary. He just accidentally fell for 2 women at once, so what did he really do wrong? Thanks to David's cooperation, I received the divorce certificate a month later. During that time, I found a new apartment and relocated the studio as well. The new location wasn't ideal, except that it was closer to David's school. Otherwise, it had no real advantages. Ironically, in our first week in the city center, the studio landed several big clients. Anna kept praising my good judgment and lucky timing. David, on the other hand, kept sending me texts. Some were warm, others outright flirtatious. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I forwarded them to my cousin's wife so she could have a laugh. She snorted. Typical, he just wants to eat from one bowl while still eyeing the pot. Doesn't matter if it's the exogyra friend or the ex-wife. Then I remembered I still had a lot of stuff at David's place. I needed to move it out soon. Once the weather warmed up, it would be harder to hide things under my downcoat. Thankfully, I was still slim, and at 6 months pregnant, my belly wasn't noticeable under thick layers. I contacted a moving team made up of college students, the kind Anna had introduced me to, and scheduled it perfectly right when I knew David would be coming home from work. I stood at the entrance of David's home, flanked by a team of college guys I'd hired. When David saw me, he looked surprised, then visibly pleased. Ignoring the high heels clicking beside him, he walked over quickly. "Rachel, you came to see me?" "No," I replied flatly. "I'm here to pick up my stuff." Emily immediately stepped forward, clinging to David's arm, her whole body pressed against him, radiating sweetness and triumph. "Sorry, Miss Rachel," she said, her voice laced with artificial politeness. "David didn't want you to feel uncomfortable, so he's already packed up your things and put them in the storage room." I nodded. "That's fine." I led the movers inside and handed them the checklist I'd prepared. "Make sure you go through it carefully." Emily's expression twitched a little when she saw the printed list. "Miss Rachel, David already packed everything for you himself. Don't you trust him?" David frowned slightly at her words. I waved it off. "This isn't about trust. It's just better to check everything clearly now rather than argue about it later." I turned to the team leader. "There are some quilts on top of that cabinet. Make sure to grab those. Also, pack the 2 bedding sets from the master bedroom and the guest rooms separately." All the bedding in this house had been part of my dowry. My family had gone out of their way to have them custom, made by one of the best old craftsmen. The thought that Emily and David might have already shared them made my skin crawl. But even if I didn't want them anymore, I sure wasn't going to let them keep them. I'd rather donate them to an animal shelter than leave anything of value behind. The weather was still cold. If there were no blankets tonight, David would have to go out into the freezing air to buy some. The image amused me. Emily scoffed. "Wow, can't even leave behind a few blankets." I raised an eyebrow. "Miss Emily, do you have to sleep wrapped in another woman's wedding bed to feel comfortable?" Her face tensed at the realization she must have just noticed she'd been using my dowry quilts. The discomfort on her face was obvious, but she tried to hold her ground. "Who would want any of your stuff? Be careful with those." One of the guys called out. A few minutes later, the checklist was brought back to me. "CIS," one of them said the red marked items are missing. I took the sheet and scanned it. Most of the missing items were jewelry, my wedding gold, several pieces David had given me over the years. Altogether, it was around 300,000 yuan worth of jewelry, and nearly half was gone. "That's impossible," David said sharply. I packed everything myself. Just a moment now he was questioning whether I trusted him, and now, with things missing, it made him look like a fool. I handed him the list. "I don't care about the pieces you bought me. Keep them. But I'm taking the rest." With so many people watching, David's pride clearly took a hit. His face darkened. Still, he stepped forward and double-checked everything, only to find I was right. Several items were indeed missing. Emily's expression changed. She took a nervous step back, the tapping of her heels suddenly deafening in the tense silence. David looked up and caught the guilty look in her eyes. His voice was tight with anger. "Was it you?" Emily stiffened. "I didn't," she stammered. "I didn't know it was hers. I thought you gave it to me." She clutched his arm, flustered and desperate. "Really, David, I didn't know who would believe that David had packed everything himself, now that the jewelry had somehow ended up hidden elsewhere, and in pristine boxes, no less. It was supposed to be a gift from him." David's face was grim as he handed me the jewelry boxes. I picked out the few pieces he had personally bought for me and placed them aside on the table. "Here, you can keep these. Just make sure everything's accounted for. If I take any of this vague, worthless junk, we will never be done with it." I looked at Emily. "Seems like you like other people's husbands and other people's jewelry, since you're so fond of secondhand goods. Might I sincerely suggest opening a recycling center?" One of the college guys behind me muttered, "Husbands don't count as recyclables. No one's going to take that kind of trash." Another guy lightly smacked him on the back of the head. "Apologize." The team leader turned to David and Emily. Sorry, he just blurts things out." Sometimes I couldn't help but burst out laughing. "You're good at this, keep going, I like what I'm hearing." Once we were done, I led the guys out and tipped them a few hundred extra for food. David tried to follow us out, but Emily yanked him back. I heard the beginning of an argument echo faintly behind us. In the months that followed, I focused on my pregnancy, but I couldn't stop Anna from giving me real-time gossip updates from campus about David and Emily. Apparently, ever since the last incident, David had become much colder toward her. Emily had initially set her sights on marrying David after finally managing to get him to divorce me. She still wasn't willing to marry him right away. In a fit of frustration, she threatened to go public about David's infidelity. During our marriage, David was miserable under her pressure. Meanwhile, Jason was also pushing him hard. David was in a critical period of career growth. He'd already been warned once by the school and didn't want to risk his job again. So with no better option, he pinched his nose and went through the motions of a wedding with. "Did they get their marriage certificate already?" I asked Anna. "Nope," she replied. "Scumbag said getting remarried right after divorcing you would look bad. He's stalling ever since Anna found out about my divorce from David." She stopped calling him professor. Now it was just scumbag. Every time she brought him up, she huffed angrily, then said, "You know what, he only just found out." The studio moved. He actually came asking me for the new address. I quickly warned her, "Don't you dare give it to him if he shows up. I'm not just worried about David. I don't want Emily knocking on my door either." Anna swore up and down. "Don't worry, Rachel. I told him you were off traveling and that the studio had temporarily closed. He even laughed on the phone. He seriously thought you were heartbroken and went away to heal. Then he said if she needs anything, tell her she can always call me." Anna let out an exaggerated groan. And where was all that helpful energy before? I didn't expect to run into Jason at my cousin's law firm. He looked stunned when he saw me. "What are you doing here?" Then his eyes dropped to my belly. "You're pregnant. Is it David's?" I slapped him across the face. "Not everyone's as shameless as your sister." Jason raised his hand, but my cousin attorneys grabbed it midair. "My cousin's in a sensitive phase of her pregnancy. I'm sure you won't mind letting that slide, Mr. Costa Jason, especially considering you were the one who insulted her first." Jason froze. "She's your cousin, Mr. Jason," my cousin said coolly. "This is all a misunderstanding. I'm happy to apologize, really. This case is important to me. I hope your firm can continue to cooperate, or it may reflect poorly on your reputation in the industry." My cousin smiled politely but distantly. "There's no need to tell me how to do my job." After Jason left, my cousin made a call. "That Jason family case, I'll take it, not about the money. I'm just very interested." He later explained it to me. The Jason family's food supply company had secretly cut costs by using substandard ingredients in their factory goods when it got exposed by media outlets. The family pushed all the blame onto the factory, but luckily the factory had kept detailed supply records and security footage. My cousin easily won the case under mounting public pressure and being blacklisted by various manufacturers. The Jason family finally declared bankruptcy. Emily lost her greatest source of power. David stalled even longer, refusing to marry her. Furious, Emily actually went through with her threat and exposed David's affair. During our marriage online, the story exploded. The school wasted no time in publicly firing David, and it came to light that Emily was also a member of the disgraced Jason family food safety scandal, adultery, corporate fraud. The three of them, David, Emily, Jay, were trending on social media for days. The last time they appeared together in a headline had been that cozy reunion photo when Emily had just returned to the country. Now comparing then, and now it was a train wreck, the Jason family. Vanished from the public, I reportedly borrowing money to flee abroad. David wanted to leave too, but Emily had drained his finances. He had no choice but to crawl back to his rural hometown. By then I'd already moved houses, changed the studio's address, and canceled my phone number in advance. David couldn't find me. So instead he sent Anna messages every day, pouring his heart out, hoping she would pass them along to me, all the usual lines, regret, pleading, asking for a second chance. Anna finally got fed up. "Do you want me to reply for you?" she asked, but I was too busy cradling my soft, chubby little baby girl. I bent down and kissed her warm little cheek. "Who cares what he wants?" I said.